All right, it is 6:37. I'll call the meeting to order. First up, we'll take roll call the trustees. Heather,
Here.
Leonard,
Here.
all right, and that's all of us. We only got 3 for tonight, so the full board is
Here.
in. We got you, Leonard. All right.
Okay.
This meeting is being recorded. The meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Enosburg Falls is being conducted electronically in order to ensure the safety of all attendees and to maintain compliance with Governor Scott's executive order. Per H 681 signed into law on March 30th, 2020, Section 6, there's a temporary suspension of designated physical meeting location requirements of Vermont's open meeting law, VSA Section 312A1. In order to ensure that all attendees can hear clearly, your audio may be muted. When you wish to speak, you can raise your hand in the participant list or by submitting a chat request, or if you called in by pressing *9. Once acknowledged by the chair, please clearly state your name, then proceed with your comment or question. Please remember that when unmuted, all participants can hear any sounds in your environment. Again, this meeting is being recorded. First order of business tonight is modifications and changes to the agenda. I believe there may be one.
Yeah, I'd like to propose a change, Sam, and that is under executive session, if we could also include negotiations in which premature public knowledge may compromise the position of the municipality.
All right, we can add that in. Any other modifications or changes? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody here from the public who wishes to speak tonight? All right, I see no hands raised, so we'll move on to review and approval for the minutes, April 27th, 2021. Did everyone get a chance to look those over? If there were no errors, I will hear a motion to approve them.
I'll make the motion.
Heather the first, is there a second?
I'll second.
Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 I'll second it.
You got you, Leonard.
Leonard, you might, if you turn off your camera, you might come in a little better.
Cut off the what?
The camera, not sure what device you're on, but like if you're on the bottom, it says stop video.
You're just a little slow. Oh,
We lost them all together.
Oh no.
Yeah, we gotta.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. All right, he came back.
Say we need him. There's only 3 of us.
I know. So I was gonna say we kind of need him. Can you hear us, Leonard?
Look on the screen. Participate.
You're kind of broken up. So
yeah.
you're all set?
For now, it says my internet connection is unstable.
We can
I
tell.
don't know why.
Okay.
That's okay. We can hear you for right now. Can you hear us?
Okay.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I guess we'll keep going. All right, next up on the agenda, Lincoln Park permit request, American Legion Post 42, Vermont Thunder event, Memorial Day event.
Yeah, so I can tee this up a little bit for the board. You've got a copy of the application in your packets. And just a few points that I wanted to bring up to the board. You've got a memorandum at the beginning of the application from myself. So first, the permit was received within the ordinances period for consideration by the board at this meeting. Just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. The permit is also within the allowable number of people to be present at an outdoor event, which as of May 1st is 300 people at an outdoor event. And they've got the permit request listed at 295, so they are within that limit of people. And then under the parks use ordinance, and also shown on the permit application, events over 100 attendees will be required to have liability insurance in an amount to be determined by the trustees, and a fee agreement will also be required. And that will also be determined by the Board of Trustees. So I bring these up just because, you know, we haven't really had many requests to use Lincoln Park because of the pandemic since the new park use ordinance went into effect last spring. So people may have, you know, forgotten some parts of the ordinance, some things that were new that were, you know, not part of giving out a Lincoln or Maple Park permit application in the past. So just wanted to refresh people's memories on that. And as far as the, you know, the liability insurance or the fee, that's completely up to the Board of Trustees. Whatever you determine is what will be required for this specific permit.
Liability insurance fee? Or liability insurance coverage for them?
Liability insurance coverage, but park permit fee. There's also in the permit, it says a fee agreement will be required. It's referred to as a fee agreement for the event.
Yeah, I feel like ages ago when that was brought up, it was kind of, we talked, because I think they had a last year, right? Last spring too, to do their usual thing. And what we talked about was the fee is often based around making sure that the park is cleaned up when it's all done, when the event's all done, right?
It can be whatever you guys want. They did, the Legion actually ended up pulling their application and didn't do one last year. They for the Vermont Thunder event. They still did the Vermont Thunder event, but they what they ended up doing was just telling everyone there's not going to be, you know, any speeches or festivities in Lincoln Park. We're just going to conclude the motorcycle ride when we get to, you know, Main Street on Enosburg Falls, but there'll be nothing else. And then people can just go where they want to go, or they can go home. But there's not going to be any official event on Lincoln Park, and that's how the Legion did it last year.
So John, it's obviously been a long time since we've had any permits, but so that liability fee, is that more like, that's a deposit, right? More,
The liability insurance.
yeah.
Yeah,
I guess I'm not remembering this.
yeah. So the liability insurance is just that. It's insurance that the applicant needs to require or is required to carry for the event. And it's up to the board to determine, you know, what you want that liability insurance to be. For example, the Lions Club is required to carry $1 million liability policy for the Dairy Festival. Now, I'm not saying that you have to require $1 million liability coverage for Vermont Thunder, but I'm just using that as an example of another event in the community where that organization that's holding the event is required to carry liability insurance for the event. But the ordinance leaves it completely up to the board. You could tell them, you know, whatever, 25,000 or 50,000 or whatever you think you feel you want them to carry as liability coverage for the event. And the fee agreement also is really up to you guys, and it can be zero. If you guys say, we're not going to charge them anything. That's up to you. But the ordinance does leave the option, at least if you do want to charge somebody for a fee to use the park, you can do that, and you can determine what you want that fee to be. Usually, I mean, historically, the board has not charged people to use Lincoln Park. Since I've been here, the only time I can remember the board ever charging anybody a fee to use the park was one time, I want to say maybe 4 years ago, Champlain Chevrolet asked to use the park for sort of a kickoff on displaying new Chevy models that were coming out that particular year. And so they had, cars and trucks parked all over Lincoln Park, and we're doing some other things. They were having a cookout there, and I think they had like a raffle that they were doing, a raffle drawing as well. And for that event, the board did charge Champlain Chevrolet because they were a private company using the park, partly to promote their business. Well, not partly, it was to promote their business. So the trustees did charge Champlain Chevrolet a fee to use the park, but they let Champlain Chevrolet determine what they wanted to pay for a fee. So they were pretty easy on them. And that's the only time I can remember anybody's ever been charged a fee to use the park. But I bring it up only because it's in the ordinance now. And so it is officially an option that the board has. And as I said, if you decide that you believe the fee agreement should be 0 and you don't want to charge the Legion anything to use the park, that you can do that too.
I don't think we need to charge them. And I think minimum liability insurance should be required for this. I don't know what we need to put for a number on that. I know a lot of policies have a starting, like a minimum. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess a minimum of $20,000 liability insurance, liability coverage.
20,000.
Sure. That seems
Okay.
pretty well. What does the rest of the board think?
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with that. I don't think it needs to be extravagant.
Yeah, I think $1 million would be a lot. I can't see a bike doing $1 million worth of damage, but yeah. Okay, so I guess if we're all in an agreement, I'll hear a motion to accept the permit with $0 fee and $20,000 minimum liability.
I'll make the motion.
Because of the first or second,
I'll second that.
Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
I'll second that.
Aye.
Okay.
Where'd you, Leonard? You're just like 5 seconds behind.
I'm sorry.
Is that all right? All right, we'll move on to Maple Park permit request, United Methodist Church lawn sale.
Yeah, so again, if the board looks in your packet, you'll see a permit request from the United Methodist Church of Enosburg Falls. They're asking to use the park on June 5th from 6:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. To hold a lawn sale. So it's for the purpose of holding a lawn sale. I assume sponsored by the church, since the application has the United Methodist Church listed as the applicant. And they're expecting perhaps around 75 people, give or take, to attend the lawn sale. Yeah, so again, well within the limit that is allowed under the COVID-19 restrictions per the state's orders. So don't see any issue with this request to use Maple Park. Staff recommends approval, and again, the same, the same things would apply. It's up to the board to decide whether you want to charge them a fee or, what kind of liability insurance, if any, you want to, have as a requirement of the permit approval.
I say we don't charge them anything. And since they're under 100 people, I don't think they need liability insurance.
I'm comfortable with that.
If the board agrees, I'll hear a motion to accept the permit.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Heather with the first, Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Motion carries.
It looks like Jim Cameron is holding a finger up.
Oh,
Sam?
good evening, Jim.
It was a finger, John, not the finger.
Yes, I was careful to say a finger.
Thank you. If Shauna were on the screen, she'd be the expert. But just to let you know, in my opinion, liability insurance is really quite cheap to somebody buying it. It's not a big deal. It's often a rider on their existing policy for a particular event. And I think you should be, my opinion to you is, and I'm not a conservative guy, as you know, but my point would be is you do want a certain amount of liability insurance, and 20,000 is nothing.
Right.
My business carries 2 million. Everything I do has to be, that's sort of like the marketplace for me. So I'm not suggesting you do something that makes it difficult for people to do it. But if it's on your property and it's an event, if there is something, they come where the pockets are. They're going to go right through the church and come right to the village and say, what's the problem? So I'm trying to be a good citizen and just give you that feedback as a business person, that it's not crazy for you to think about a much higher liability limit, and not to stop people, but for you to have protection. And maybe that's something that they could jump on. I know the EBA carries liability insurance. They could jump on that. And as long as the EFEDC is doing its thing, that might be another approach, so that there's coverage for everybody at a price they can do it. But you as a village, from a business perspective, are covered. Somebody trips. That's my thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. I definitely don't want to make it difficult for anyone to use the park. And if somebody's having a very small group of people, I wouldn't see any liability in that. And along with like the Vermont Thunder, as far as that goes, they're all on motorcycles that should be registered, inspected, and insured. So they should have individual liability coverage. So, yeah, I didn't think that a whole lot of insurance is necessary, given that they should already have some. But yeah, I'll take that in consideration. I know $1 million policy is kind of common, but that's a lot. Yeah, okay. We'll move on to Public Works Water Department status report with Gary Denton. I think you're muted still, Gary.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Wes and Sampson got the parts in. They are on site this afternoon, late this afternoon. They will be putting it back together, the stainless steel shaft and the 6-inch conduit. When they were doing the redevelopment, they realized that the 6-inch conduit, which is a sleeve that the shaft goes through, is pretty much pinholed, got holes in it. So we had to replace that. And the shaft was a regular iron or steel shaft, which is probably, I don't know, 30 years old. And they're replacing that with the stainless steel. So hopefully that'll last me another 30 years. We'll hopefully have it up. I'm hoping to have it up by tomorrow or late Thursday or early Thursday. That is our best well. That's our high producing well. So I'm kind of want to get it back online. That one runs over 400 gallons a minute, which well 2 was about 200 gallons a minute. So that's the status on that. And also I got a status on the park bench, picnic tables. We ordered those, the 4 picnic tables for the Maple Park and for Lincoln Park. They are 8 weeks out. So we won't see them till probably end of June, first part of July. And also the guys have been working on the fountain. A few cracks in the fountain. They've been plugging those up so they won't leak water. They got the pump ready. So hopefully they're going to paint the fountain itself. So that should be up here soon too. Another question I want to ask is, do we want to turn the water fountain back on or wait till after complete COVID?
I don't see any reason why we have to keep it off due to COVID.
Okay.
I know the governor's expecting things to be open full swing here.
I know last year we didn't turn it on because of the COVID.
Yeah, we know a lot more about like how it's spread and stuff like that. I don't see a concern
Okay.
with that.
Okay.
Maybe wait till after it's done snowing. I saw some flakes.
Yeah, yeah. What else? I got a list here. What else? I think I got benches. Oh yeah, the portalettes will be here tomorrow. I called Drumac, and they're going to deliver the handicap over at Lincoln Park, and we have another regular one over here by the Bridge of Fire and Lights, like we usually do. And I guess you want to keep it till October, like we did last year. Is that the agreement?
Yeah, that seemed to work good.
Okay. So that's my report. We've got all the streets swept. We've got the new bulk tree mulch on between the curb and the sidewalk. We got the speed signs up. We're waiting for Ken Santamore tomorrow to take his computer and get them set up so they can actually clock stuff. So hopefully that'll be done tomorrow also.
I saw that. Everything looks good. So you have, I noticed the one sign on Water Tower. The other two are on Orchard and Pearl.
We only bought 2 signs.
Okay, yeah.
So what we're gonna do, I think what we're gonna do is we get it so we can turn them, so we can do so many a month or so headed towards Berkshire. We'll spin them, head them back toward the village. And same with Orchard, we'll spin them, and then I got 2 more anchors, so we can decide where you want to put them on Pearl or wherever, or Main Street after that. And we can always pull the anchors and move them again. They're only, they're 3 feet deep. We can yank them and set them somewhere else.
Awesome. And so we're 1 well down now. There's plenty of water left in the reservoir for.
Oh, well, that reservoir holds 750,000 gallons, and our average usage runs between 150 and 200,000 gallons a day. So we got a couple of days. Even our pumps went down. We'd have a day or 2 of reserve.
Good enough.
So there is though in Gary's memo, if you read it, he is actually asking for some action though, because of the amount of money that the quote from Weston and Sampson came in at. So he needs approval to hire Weston and Sampson to replace that column and motor shaft on well number 1 for the above listed quote in his memo, which is for $6,765.50, which that's over the amount that I have authority as village manager to approve myself. So in order for him to make that purchase, because it's also above the amount that we had budgeted for well maintenance in 2021, he is asking for your approval to accept that.
We didn't have to go out for 3 bids.
No, because it's part of the well maintenance work that we do, and we have a longstanding obligation with Weston and Sampson. They're one of the few people in the area,
It's specialized to
right, that actually do this kind of work, and so they do this for us every year. They do our well maintenance work for us.
And plus it's already torn apart, so it's not like they put it back together and we had to hire somebody to take all things apart again, Sam, and cost us more money to take the whole well apart again. Because what you got a vertical shaft motor, electric motor with a 35-foot shaft with a motor at the bottom. So that's all yanked out of there. Then they got to put the shaft and thing back down. So it's really cheaper to have them do it because it's already tore apart.
Right, and it's a time constraint.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I'll hear a motion to accept that bid.
I'll make the motion.
Heather with the first.
I'll
Leonard with the second.
second it.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
Those opposed, nay.
aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, is there any other questions for Gary? All right, thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Enosburg Initiative Report. I believe that to be Jim.
Hi, folks.
Good evening.
I have a few things. One is just to let you know, we had about 8 or 9 folks do Green Up Day last Saturday, I guess it was. Worked around the Opera House, and we worked from Enosburg to West Enosburg to the Four Corners. Sam, was that you
What's
in the
that?
truck that day?
Oh, probably,
You
yeah.
going by that day?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I saw
Anyway,
you too,
we
Jim.
did our, say again?
I was just gonna say, I saw you out there too, Jim. You guys were doing a real good job. I was very proud of, all of the bags of garbage I could see you guys were collecting and putting together. I could see you guys were working real hard, and I want to thank you guys for your efforts.
Thank you. Sally and Dave just wouldn't stop. I tried to put them down, but they
I believe
they
that.
kept going farther and farther and farther down the frickin' road. And anyway, so we did that. Then the other thing to update you about is there's a bunch of things, I guess. So the Pearly Block as a project is continuing to move forward as a development project for Tim's group, FDIC, whatever they are. And 2 things that are important is we had to submit an individual nomination for that block to the historic register, and that was done about 2 weeks ago. And we'll have an answer at the end of June. And if that comes through, which is 80% going to come through, then that opens up a substantial amount of tax credits for that project. So that's that timeline. The other thing is we are one of 3 proposals to the Franklin Northeast must be Supervisory Union. They're looking for space. And so we submitted our proposal on time on Monday. And I know that one of the other proposals is in Richford, and I don't know what the 3rd proposal is. That's a public event, so we'll find out who's applying for that or who's promoting that. And we should know about that, my understanding, some indication by the end of the month, the end of May. So those are 2 important parts of that. Then tied into other stuff that's coming up is we'll be getting permission to go into that building and clean all the windows, wash it all down and make it pretty. And then I'm not sure who in our group brought it up anymore, but we're going to reprint all the Vital Village information and repost it in those windows, which it was for months, if you recall, before. All the poster boards that talk about the ideas and public input, etc. So our plan is in the next couple of weeks to clean the front of the building as a volunteer and volunteers, if you will, and then put those up, make those available. I'm assuming there's no objection from the trustees for us to put that public information up.
I think it's a
that
great
was brought
idea.
up before.
Yeah, it definitely was
So-
brought up
so,
at the meeting a couple weeks ago. Food banking.
Yep,
Jim,
Yeah. yeah, and there is an act. Go ahead. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was taking notes as I'm also doing minutes now for meetings, and I missed a little bit of what you were saying about the windows. Did you say you were putting up some posters in the windows?
What we were intending to do is take the same posters that were there before and just put them back up again as people who said that they didn't know what was going on.
Okay, why don't we have a conversation offline about that? There's the Vital Village Management Group had a discussion about ways to get more information out into the public from the Vital Village public meeting that we had a week or so ago. And that was one of the ideas that came out of that management team meeting was maybe trying to use the Pearly Block windows as an area where we could stage information about the Vital Village project and the scoping study that's currently being worked on. One of the suggestions that came from, I believe it was Felicia Leffler, was to put up billboards in Lincoln Park to do that. But I'm not sure that there's money in the budget to build like, nice formal billboards. But the other idea we had in talking about it just with the management team was maybe we could, there's enough money in the budget that we could do like some large posters, just paper posters, and put them in store shop windows or something. And we thought of the Pearly Block since it's vacant right now. So maybe just offline, we can, if you don't mind, we could talk about that possibility a little, if that's okay.
Fine with me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Pardon me, trying to make myself look less creepy. There you go. Okay, so that's where that's the update on the Pearly Block and where it's going. We'll get the front of it cleaned up in the next couple of weeks. I guess to that end, I'll jump in that we're going to be putting together a work day either this weekend or next weekend. We have a planning meeting this Thursday, so I'll jump to that. We have our first hybrid meeting in a while. We're going to meet at the Quincy and have people come obviously in person, and then also create a Zoom meeting, which has already been done, so that if folks want to come in, they can, and if they want to come in on Zoom, they can do that as well. So that's this Thursday. We've been meeting every 2 weeks. This is our first time we've had anybody in the room together for months, certainly. And then back to that, we're going to be putting together a work day, and when we're doing that, it brings a lot of things together. We worked on the mound a couple weeks ago in the park, just raking, cleaning, picking through it all, putting it together. We got the platform ready for the new doughboy to come back, and then today in the backyard of the Quincy, the granite block got delivered, which is the new base for the doughboy. And Scott Goodhue doesn't know it yet, but he's going to volunteer, and he's going to snake that off my trailer, and we'll set it. I was very surprised I have another popular question to ask you. That piece of granite that was 32 by 32 inches and 6 inches deep weighs 650 pounds. Think about that. My God, that's just tremendous. I had no idea that it was that heavy, if you will, but I did not pick it up. Let's be very clear that despite what others might think, I do not have that kind of capacity to do that. So we're going to place the granite platform. We're going to finish cleaning up the mound. Sarah is going to come in and replant the mound to clean it up and put new stuff in it. Sarah Downs. And then the other thing is, Gary's there still on the screen, is we'd like to put in the bike repair station. You've heard about it for years. You thought it was a joke, but it's not. So we'd like to place a bike repair station in the park. It will be something that we plan on putting in a 5-gallon bucket and burying it below grade, so that if it was offensive or not in the right place and needs to be moved, we can do that. So is it okay to talk with Gary for the placement of that bike repair station? We got a grant for it. It's bought. There's no money here. It's just where we're putting it. Gary, that okay? Or guys,
I have no problem with
okay
that.
just to
Yeah,
work
if I
with
can
Gary
sit
on?
down, Jim, and figure a spot that's, somewhere that's easy not to mow around and it's not,
Yeah. It's a 3-inch pole,
Yep.
straight, clean up in the ground kind of thing.
Jim, was there two of
Just
those?
to do it respectfully with you guys. We have two with a third. We have two that we own and a third tied to the rail trail. Greta has somewhere one waiting for the rail trail. it ties into a couple other things coming up of ideas or requests, however you want to look at those things. So that comes back to this, that there's a lot going on here, but they're all tied together. So the work day we're going to put together, we'll clean the windows of the Pearly Block that same day. You know, we're just going to put some people together, pardon me, and get those things done. And then Sally and Dave Trihorn want to try a pop-up welcome center again. And you may have forgotten, but about 2 years ago, we tried a welcome center over at the Opera House, and it didn't go well. Frankly, we just didn't get a lot of people. Let's just be clear. And we weren't able to staff it very well. So this is all me. This is all me telling you what my thoughts are, but we're all as a whole group going to plan this out. But the theory is that if we would open up a pop-up welcome center in the lobby of the Masonic Temple, the Masons have said that's okay with them. And that if you, in a really nice way, in a great, natural way, you know, obviously Dave and Sally have, revitalized the Masonic Temple, and they continue to do that. The lobby's been all cleaned out of all of its junk. You guys are putting in the portalets, so when people come to the visitor center, there's the portalets. There's something that they can utilize. And on that corner now is free Wi-Fi. So that little part of the park is likely where we'd want to put the bike repair station, so that people who are on the rail trail can look at a sandwich board that you're going to approve, but allow us to put a sandwich board on the weekends down by the kiosk on the rail trail and down by the river that points to the village for services, right? Come up for coffee, come up for lunch, come up for ice cream, and there's public toilets in the park, Wi-Fi in the park, et cetera, et cetera. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Jim,
Your hands up. Go ahead.
I know you guys have mentioned about moving the Vietnam Veterans Memorial there. Is that still going to stay where it is, or are you're going to move that?
No, we're not going to move it, but what needs to happen, we're not going to move it because there's a reason for it being there, as explained to me by others, and that is when they brought the portable
Wall.
there's no disrespect, believe me, but the portable Vietnam Vets Memorial, that's where the apex of it was when it was placed there, and so that marker wants and needs to stay there out of respect. But what we do need to do is create a really tasteful plaque or sign, but more like a plaque that explains that's where it is and sends people there, right? Because if they're coming to visit the park, they see the Doughboy and the monuments and everything sort of feels like it's right there, but people miss the Vietnam vets because it needs to be over where it is. So that'll be that's on our list for Thursday night, and we'll put together the signage for that and get your approval.
I just know you had mentioned it later.
That works.
We had talked about it a year ago about, and I didn't know what the status was.
Yeah, without that being the message of it, I guess I would, in theory, like to move it, because then it will be part of that part of the park, if you know what I'm saying. That's like Monument Central of the park, Remembrance, Memorial Central. Understanding that needs to stay there. I think it warrants and deserves signage that tells people where it is and then why it's over there versus where it is. And Sandy knows as somebody who's interested in putting a fence very similar to what's around the Doughboy around that little Vietnam, that thing sort of tied together visually, and also like, come see me, you know what I'm saying? To bring people's eyes over to it and see that it's really there. So believe it or not, I'm not asking for our group for any money, but we'll put together the effort and get permits from you, permission to put it up. We can take care of that. I'm in a good place. I've still got a couple of things, but I guess if you didn't if this passed you by or you've forgotten, it's really noteworthy that I don't remember the dates anymore. Everything's a blur. But a year or so ago, when we started the effort to remove and replace the fence that's there, there was some seed money that was put down as a deposit on the fence. And then everyone was let known that we needed more money to finish it. And I'm going to maybe embellish a little bit, but I don't think too much. Within a couple of months, we'd raised $23,000 or $24,000 from donations from the EBA, from the Legion, from the Historic Society. And so we paid for the rest of the fence. And then I believe we all agreed to help with the Doughboy. And now the Doughboy has just got a grant for part of its refurbishment. So we have this fund. I'm going to guess there's another $5,000 or $10,000 left over that's sitting at the EFEDC. But the two things that are really, I wish you would, I hope you do, and others really should appreciate how quickly and fast and generous people were when they had a target. You know, when they had something that they wanted to see done or be part of. It was, everyone was really proud to do that. All the different parties that put that money together. And we used we should talk about the park too. Yes, that's important. I want to update you about the park if I can, the industrial park. Sandy and others and everybody, that money's all sitting in whatever's left over is sitting in the EFEDC account because it had a checking account that was covered or whatever. So that money sits there for that collection of people to decide where it goes. So once the Doughboy is placed, my guess is we'll have some money to put towards another event in the park, lights or something else, and we'll come back to you for that. But kind of like in my own individual mind, I'm looking at it as sort of a park fee, park development fund, pardon me, is what I meant to say, so that we could all talk about what's next to make the park nicer and do that together. So that's what's important about that. And let's see. Yeah, that's that. The Opera House, I think if you didn't know, they got a $50,000 grant, a substantial grant from the Preservation Trust of Vermont. And then they have their own repair fund that comes from the town. And they're starting to work on the building. There's a contractor's been hired to do all the windows. And then Dave and Sally have built a little hut on top of the Opera House. And they'll be living there this summer while they're, that was a joke, everybody. So my lift is over there, and Dave and I have been up and done a little bit of baby demolition and we're gonna have all those parts to that round circle that are falling apart built in a shop, and then we're gonna reinstall them up there just to put it back to what it was. And then Dave and I have the responsibility from the ridge line up on the tower. So we're going to refurbish all the wood up there and knock it down and paint it. I gave a list of lumber to Susie today, Cindy, that she's going to get her board to approve or the town to approve. And that's all the lumber to replace all the rotten corner boards and, trim boards that some are rotten and some are so beat up, whatever. They just need to be replaced. So they've got to approve that. But other than that, we're going to get started on the Opera House. And, some of us are getting involved on the Opera House up in the air. Hybrid meeting. Okay, so we're trying, I believe it's accurate to say for the group that what we're people are interested in getting back together and becoming active as a work group or volunteer group and pushing things and moving things around and helping. And so that's where we are. And I gave you a list of those things that we want to get on. Then a couple of two things that I can and should tell you. One is that very quickly said when that park was originally put together, it had an Act 250 permit that was very, you could say restrictive or targeted around dairy stuff. And jobs, which is typically industrial parks. Then the intended tenant never came, and then Wells, the Valancourt Transportation went in 2010 or something. Is that? Yeah, that's about right. 2010, And there was a ruling by the then administrator that was okay, but right on the edge, like I shouldn't let you, but I'm going to. And then in 14, Rick Green went in and he got his permits through the Act 250 process for his cleaning station up there. And one of two things, at least one of two things happened, but I think it's the latter, from talking with Rick Green on Saturday. And that is that when he got his permit for his cleaning station, it changed the premise of the industrial park, and no one else was told that or knew that. But in the copy of the permit, which I gave him, and it's public record, it's everywhere, and with conversations with the new Act 250 administrator, the park is actually open to any business that the zoning regulations allow in that district. That's kind of a big deal that no one knew about. I didn't know about, and no one else in my group knew about. There was this sense that it was just this holdover from this restrictive thing. So as an example, you could put a used car dealership in that industrial park because it's permitted in the zoning regulations. It would have to go through every site plan or anything like that. It has to go through the normal local process. But the Act 250 people, as long as it met the other criteria in Act 250 around setbacks and colors and environmental issues, but that it doesn't have to be just manufacturing. It doesn't have to be just dairy. And to be very specific, it's in line 4 of the permit. And I can boot it up and print it to you. And that as a volunteer, I've had conversations with at least one other business in town that would like to buy some of those lots for that purpose, for other purposes, I should say. I'm supposed to get this letter that affirms what I've said. I have all the emails, by the way. I'm happy to share all those with you. There's nothing behind the scenes going on or wheeling and dealing. I'm not buying any lots, believe me. I'm the president of that group, and we're trying to open up other opportunities for how that works. So actually, John, I will positively remember to forward on all that email trail to you so that you can see it and have it and understand what I think's been going on. And just to bring you into the loop is all. No other agenda there. And anybody's welcome to have it. Again, everything I did was above the board. So that could be potentially a really positive thing. And then the other thing, so that could be a really great thing, I think. And then the other part of it, which is the yin yang of it all, is that we're out of money. The Industrial Park Board is broke, and we have no source of income unless we sell a lot. So I had started talking to people about buying the other 5 lots. We have 5 lots left. And I've already spoke with one person over the weekend. I'm just going to speak with another person this week that are local business people who might have an interest in buying up all the lots. And as well, at some point, we'll be advertising and saying, does anybody here want to get a bargain on an industrial park lot that's permitted for any number of things and as a long-term investment? Because the reality is we are going to go bankrupt. I mean, that may sound harsh to you, but it's just a reality for us. And our board has dwindled. Our bylaws allow us to stay in business. We still have a checking account. We're still insured, et cetera. Our treasurer is bonded. We're very well organized, if you will, legally. We're not skirting any issues. We have our own liability, obviously, on the park. We're paying all of our bills, but we don't have anything left. So we have to come up with something for the park. So that's a real positive development about the opportunities that exist there. Maybe that we could open up not the floodgates, but open it up to other potential tenants or owners. But that's where we are. I haven't taken a lot of your time for a long time, so thank you for that time right there. I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, tonight's quiz. I'm building the police station, and I needed a bulletproof window. So 18 inches by 36 inches. What does it cost me to buy a bulletproof window?
600
Come on,
pounds.
come on. How much? How much is that window? Come on, 18 inches by maybe 40 inches.
$2,000.
Thank you, Gary. The bidding starts at $2,000. Do I hear $3,000? 4,000 bucks. 4,000 bucks. I budgeted 6,500. I thought that was pretty fair for, for 2 windows, and now I'm 1,500 short. I couldn't have imagined that. I couldn't have imagined that. As you all know, prices, I read 2 letters last night from trade groups, and prices for building materials are going up 5 to 10% a week. It is everything. We can only buy so much sheetrock at a time. There's a cap on how much sheetrock we can buy. So we're buying it from different suppliers now, because you can't just go in and give an order for sheetrock. You only get so much at a time. It's wow. Okay.
Now a time to build.
$4,000 for a window. I'll sell it to you for $5,000. I'll sell them to you for $5,000. Okay, I'll give you a deal. No.
Nice to have some profit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Good night, Jim.
All right, up next we have manager's report.
Okay, thank you, Sam. First off, I want to give you guys a quick update on the AMI/VEPSA project, something I've brought up periodically over the last couple of years. This is still being researched by VEPSA. Negotiations with Aclara, who is the meter vendor that VEPSA is working with, are continuing. Aclara has been very clear with VEPSA that if this project were to occur, they wish to have one contract with VEPSA rather than 11 or 12 different contracts with the individual members of VEPSA. So that's something new in the discussions about a potential project using AMI for VEPSA members. There are also some financing issues that are being discussed around this issue with the meter vendor. Having members own the meters directly could complicate financing for those who desire to have VEPSA finance their projects for them. There isn't really a mechanism in place for Aclara to do that, apparently. So cost estimates received this week, I want to make you guys aware of this. These are estimates. Remember, nobody's locked into anything at this point. These are discussions, negotiations VEPSA's having with Aclara to try and figure out whether it makes sense to try and do a smart metering project collectively for all of VEPSA's members. But when you look at the cost on this, I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, what did we just get ourselves involved in? Nobody is committed to anything right now. Right now, it's just research. So, but the cost estimates we got just last week from Aclara. They did a breakdown for each member of VEPSA and what each member's system would cost to do this AMI project. So the cost estimates for Enosburg Falls were at nearly $700,000 for the first year, and has continuing service costs each year. So that's in addition to the $700,000 in the first year over the next 15 years. So over a 15-year period, Enosburg Falls would be looking at approximately $990,000 to do this AMI or smart metering project in our service territory. A key part of any decision regarding this proposed project will be the cost benefit analysis for each utility member. And this is something we don't have yet. This is still being worked on by VEPSA staff. So that'll obviously be very key to any decision that the Board of Trustees would make about whether you want to move forward and try to do a smart metering project through VEPSA or not. It's been something we've been discussing for several years now. It has taken a lot of time. There's a lot of very detailed information that VEPSA needs to do. They obviously want to be meticulous in their research because it's pretty big money. The other concern that we all have is, as you guys are aware, our state government, which still regulates electric utilities in Vermont, seems to be pushing very hard for all electric utilities in Vermont to go to some kind of smart metering system. And so that's also part of our thinking in trying to do this research now, is so that we have some idea if it gets to the point where our state government actually mandates a smart metering system be put in place for even small municipally owned electric utilities. At least we kind of have a ballpark anyway, what we're talking about, and that will help us discuss the issue and potential problems for small munis with our state government too. So, it's a big project. It certainly would have a large expense, and our electric utility would most definitely have an impact of some sort on our ratepayers. But I want to check in with you guys periodically on this and let you know where things stand. So, but again, want to emphasize, no commitments are made at this point. So far, this is just research that's being done by VEPSA. And as we get closer and closer to the end of this process, we'll be coming back to you guys with more information. And at the end of that, the big question of, is this something you're interested in pursuing for Enosburg Falls or not? So VEPSA will need an answer to that eventually. Another proposed project that VEPSA is working on behalf of its member systems is a proposed battery storage project. They are looking at potentially doing one of these in each of their member systems service territories at this point. Now, if you're not familiar with that terminology, battery storage or battery energy storage systems, as they're sometimes called, are devices that enable energy renewables like solar power, wind power, to be stored and then released through the battery when customers need the power most. So it is a true battery system. The energy that's created during favorable environmental conditions for either solar or wind, or if you live on the coast, you could do it through windmills that are, generated off from coastal systems as well. Same idea as regular wind on a mountaintop too. That generation is then stored in a battery, and then you have the ability to tap into that stored power in the battery when you need it most. So like, obviously during the evening, you're not generating any solar power. You're only generating solar power when the sun's out and it's shining and it's hitting the solar panels. But you can store, if you have one of these battery energy storage systems, you can store that solar power in a battery cell and then use it on, later during the evening or tomorrow. If tomorrow happens to be a very cloudy, rainy day and you're not able to generate any solar power, well, you've got some in this battery storage system that you can use. So anyway, that's just a very quick description of what a battery storage system is. And VEPSA is looking into potentially doing one of these projects in each of its member systems. I was informed just last week that they have apparently have bumped up Enosburg Falls a little bit in an RFP process. And they would like to put an RFP out this month that would include Enosburg Falls within that RFP to get data and information from vendors about what it would cost to do a project like this in our service territory. So what I was told last week was that they're looking at, for this round, this would be their second phase of doing this. VEPSA has done one phase already with some other members of VEPSA to gather this information. And we would be in this phase, one of 3 members total. And the other members that they're looking at are Lindenville and Northfield for this phase. So it'd be Lindenville, Enosburg Falls, and Northfield in this second phase. Now, it's my understanding that this RFP process does not commit us to actually doing the project. And I've got just to let you know, I've got a meeting set up for the 13th, which is this Thursday, with Ken Nolan, who's the general manager at VEPSA, to go over the plans, the schedule, any estimated cost that they have at this point from vendors about, what ballpark figures they're looking at for those kinds of projects. And I'll keep the board apprised as this develops further. And as I said, I'll be meeting with Ken Nolan on Thursday about this. I just want to keep you guys up to date on this as well. Next, a quick update on our FERC relicensing process. We have reached another milestone in this effort. Our consultant on this, Paul Nolan, who is, again, an attorney from Washington, D.C., who we have hired, Enosburg Falls has hired, along with Swanton Village, to help us work through the FERC relicensing process for our hydro facilities. And Paul has filed and advertised our what's referred to as a final license application, or FLA for short, with FERC, the agency that supplies us with our license to run our hydro facilities. Those advertisements went in last week's St. Albans Messenger with instructions for the public in the advertisement as to how they can comment to FERC if they wish to send public comments to FERC. But they do have to be sent to FERC, not to the Village of Enosburg Falls, in order to be filed with FERC. So it is expected that FERC will then post notice for any public comment on the filing, and also give instruction that the public would have to respond within 60 days of that publication from FERC. As has been mentioned before, this is a long process with many steps to move forward before we actually get our relicense to continue operating our hydro facility. We're now 3 years into what is expected to be a 5-year process to do this, but things do continue to move forward. And I just want to make the board aware that we are making progress in this important effort. This is obviously critical to be able to continue running our hydro facility. We have to be licensed by FERC in order to do that. So again, just keeping you guys up to date on that project and our community and our municipality. And then lastly, want to update you guys on S60. You may recall our last board meeting, I let you guys know that there was a bill which was referred to as S60 that was making its way through the legislature. And this bill would give more flexibility to public power utilities in the state of Vermont. Want to let you guys know that this bill has passed now. It's been signed by Governor Scott, so it is now officially law in the state of Vermont. And in a very quick summary, what the legislature ended up approving in S60 was the bill will allow public utilities to implement rate changes up to 2% per year without undergoing the traditional reviews that are done by the Public Utility Commission or the Department of Public Service. Now, there is some caveats to this, so I'm just letting you know it's not necessarily an automatic. The DPS within the bill, the DPS is still allowed to intervene in a increase, even if that increase is 2% or less, if they choose to, which could then nullify some of the intent of the bill. But we'll just have to see, I guess, how often the DPS chooses to use this trump card, if you will, regarding S60. Nobody has tested it yet. This just came into place, was signed by the governor, I think about a week and a half ago, signed this into law. So it hasn't been tested yet, but we'll have to see, you know, first person in will be a guinea pig to see, you know, whether the DPS is really going to allow you to do up to a 2% increase without them interfering or trying to do some of the, you know, historical due diligence that they have traditionally done with any electric utility that files for a rate increase for electric utilities. So, but I do want to emphasize that overall, this is considered a very significant victory for public power in Vermont, and many public power utilities across the state were very excited to hear about this. So just want to again let you guys know, and you know, it is a victory. I think we can look at it as a victory. It may not be everything that was originally intended when the bill was submitted to the legislature, but it does give more flexibility to public power utilities in the state to try and have some control over their own rates. So, and there is at the back of the manager's report, I also attached a press release that was put together by Julia Leopold at VEPSA, Vermont Public Power Supply Authority, if you want to read a little more detail about S60 and what the governor signed into law. And that's it for our manager's report.
Would municipalities still have to notify anybody of a rate change, or can they just go ahead and do it?
Yeah, we would still have to put out notification so that you know, people were aware. But the state, unless it's challenged by the DPS, the state would allow it to go through if it was 2% or less, you know, on a yearly basis, unless the DPS decided they wanted to challenge it and intervene. And they do still have that ability under S60. So it didn't really, I guess this was, you know, a compromise that the legislature saw because the DPS was kind of digging in their heels about, you know, still having the ability to have some authority, even if it was 2% or less. They wanted to still be able to, you know, put the brakes on it if they felt like something was wrong, if there was something that was fundamentally not correct about the filing. They still wanted that authority to sort of put the brakes on and say, wait a minute, we want to, you know, we want to intervene, and we want to, you know, look at the records, look at the findings, and understand the justification for why the utility would need to do this increase.
Yep.
So,
Okay, thank you, John.
yep, thank you.
Up next, other business. Does anybody have any other business tonight? Hearing none, I will hear a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel and discussing negotiations in which premature public knowledge may compromise the position of the municipality.
I'll make the motion.
Heather, the first, have a second.
I'll second that.
Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Hi, Ellen.
Good night.
All right, I have all board members back from executive session. I have Leonard on speakerphone here. As a result, item in executive session, the board is replacing Cindy Minor's trustee vacancy with Eli Gabuzza. We felt
we-
best.
I think we need someone to make a motion to that effect for each one of the positions.
All right, I need a
So one
to-
motion for Jason's position, and then one motion for Cindy Minor's position.
All right, I need a motion to appoint Eli Gabuzza for Cindy Minor's vacancy on the Board of Trustees.
I make the motion that we give Eli the job that's Cindy.
All right, Leonard has the first, there's a second.
I'll second that.
Heather with a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Unanimous. Okay, the second appointment the board has made for Jason LaRosa's vacancy on the Board of Trustees, I need a motion to appoint Sandy Ferlin.
I'll make the motion.
Heather with the first, is there a second?
I will second that.
Leonard has the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Again, the board thinks that person was the best for that position. The board would also like to thank all of the applicants who were interested in that position. Yes, we thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I think that's it for tonight. If there's no other business, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right, Heather has the first. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right.
All right, great.
Hey, guys.